Welcome to Body Energetics, evidence-based spirituality to get happy, healthy, and hot. I'm your host, Lauren Saracione, and I've been in fitness for over 22 years. I've also had 3 major healing events where I learned something new and deeper about the mind-body connection. It is my mission to help you get happy, healthy, and hot. So whether you're here for mindset work to get happy, emotional work to get healthy, or owning your desires and who you be to get hot, Body Energetics is for you. Hello, and welcome to episode number 9 of Body Energetics, evidence-based spirituality to get happy, healthy, and hot. I'm your host, Lauren Saracione, and I wanted to start by reminding you that this is not replacing any medical or professional advice. I'm sharing with you my experience as a fitness professional and someone who has had 3 major health crises in her life, and all the information of the self-healing journey and my expertise that I'm sharing with you so that you can get your foot in the door, start the process, especially with the evidence episodes, and then also to hear stories and inspiration and how I perceive the spiritual concepts that are out there and other concepts that I have intuited myself that have helped me heal and feel connected to myself, others, God, and my inner child. With that said, this is an about episode, and this about episode is for the hero's journey, and I am so excited to share this with you. You have no idea. So, I perceive the chakras as spheres of energy that are multidimensional, meaning that they connect to our mental, emotional bodies, and then our spiritual bodies, but spiritual, notice it doesn't have a plural. The spiritual bodies, there's more than one, right? It's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. But the spiritual has fragments all within itself because there are different layers and dimensions of the universe. So for the chakras, I don't necessarily perceive them as cones going horizontally forward through the front of the body and backward, as you'll see in some depictions. I don't see the root chakra as a cone that faces down and the crown chakra that faces up. I just see them as spheres, and the chakras above and below are 7 chakras that are from our root to a couple of feet above our head. I see all of those chakras that are above and below that as spheres also. So who knows if it's accurate or not? That is my perception of them. And with the hero's journey, I'm holding up, if you're listening just audio only, I'm holding up a picture of the 7 chakras as spheres with some information written to the sides of them and within them. And this is how I have use the concept of the hero's journey and use the information that's held in each chakra to give myself a map to heal. So if you're not familiar with the hero's journey, I'm going to summarize this very briefly. It's that the hero is going to leave his or her village to go get an elixir, to go get a solution to something. And on that journey, there are villains and setbacks and roadblocks and adventures. And finally, the hero is able to get the elixir, and then the hero comes back to the village and shares the elixir with all of the townspeople. And when I heard that, I was like, ooh, I love this concept because it gives purpose to our pain. And it opens the door for us to think about pain in a different way. And I had a mentor right before the world shut down, like 3 days before the world shut down, or maybe a week before the world shut down. I had this intensive for like 4 or 5 hours. And the woman said to me, what if pain didn't hurt? And at that time, I was doing something called the MEM method, mental, emotional, mechanical, I think is what I made the acronym mean. And it was like really forced because I was struggling with growing my business. I wanted to grow the business online. I was still working at a Pilates studio. And I was really struggling that the things that got the most traction on the internet was me divulging stories of pain. And I was very frustrated about this because I was like, I don't want to keep talking about all these painful events. I don't want to keep oversharing. And it was frustrating because those are the posts that got the most traction. But I was like so over it. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I was really trying to like tap into some of the energetic work and some of the mindset work that I had done up until that point to get out of the chronic pain after my neck injury had healed. So I was like really trying to get something put together that encompassed the mental, emotional work with the physical body. And this woman said, what if pain didn't hurt? I'm like, what do you mean, what if pain didn't hurt? Pain's awful. Pain hurts like hell, you know? But it really got me thinking. And the hero's journey it allowed me to look at my physical pain as this is where the mental emotional is stored. This is where my hurt feelings are stored. This is where my negative mental emotional identities are stored. And I really started to look at aspects of myself as separate, compartmentalized mental emotional identities of different ages of myself that got separated, that got pushed out of my awareness because dealing with those emotions was too much to deal with, or the value. Like I see mindset as a value system because of a feeling. So whatever self-doubt, self-depreciation, deprecation, self-loathing, I was like, those are mindsets because of a feeling I made mean something about me. And then it splintered off into, well, feeling is an emotion. It's an energy in motion. It has a frequency. It has a name. You can drill it down like that and use it as a code. All that stuff came later. But what happened was I was able to really say, okay, I can look at pain, the physical pain, as suppressed emotions, suppressed mental emotional identities, and then the painful experiences as ways that who I am on the soul level needed to experience in order to get the lesson or to grow. And the lesson, I don't want the context of the word lesson to be misinterpreted as the universe is testing you, because I don't think that's what it is. What I believe the lesson is that we can be non-physical. We could choose not to incarnate into this 3D realm that has contrast, where Gaia, where Mother Earth has her own energetic frequencies, she's her own being having her own experience with a collective of humans in different mental, emotional tribes of thought and locations and cultures and everything that goes into having culture and subculture, on top of the world structures that are for profit, power and profit. So it's like we've got the world structures of power, profit, control. We've got the human conditions of all these different psychographics. Then we got the individual human. Then we've got Mother Gaia herself, which then she's inside of another concept being having its experience too. So in my line of thinking about this and why the hero's journey is a category of episodes that we're going to get into is I thought about all that stuff that I just said and was like, okay, if we choose to incarnate with everything that I just described, it is the lab day of our soul experience, where if we stayed incarnate, I don't know. What's the word? What's the right word? If we stayed non-physical with source or as a soul, or not having the physical experience of the 3D human existence, it would be just like learning from a book. So it's like, okay, well then the painful experiences are actually this opportunity for the lab day, for the experiment, for us to choose to, or maybe not choose, but slip into devolution. Is that the right word? To slip into degeneration, where we just become a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a painful event, where we are reliving the experience on a mental emotional level and we are projecting the experience and harming people with it. Or we have this quote unquote painful experience and we're like, oh, Lights are on. I don't like feeling this way. This is not okay with me. What can I do to make it better? Where do I need to take responsibility? How can I start to change my thoughts and feelings? How can I start to change my relationships? Like, it's either you have the event and you let it take you down, or you have the event and you tap into your wisdom. So when I chose to look at the pain outside the physical pain body, when I start to look at the pain of the life experience of the human condition as an opportunity to grow, as if it was a lab day in science class in 8th grade, instead of it being a book and lecture day, it's a lab day where you get to experiment with chemicals. I was like, if it's that, why? Okay, well, why is because I am a fragment of source energy. I have a natal chart that describes my personality based on where all the planets and the comets and the stars were, where we were in the galactic center as our universe moving through the multiverse. I have a blueprint of what I could be as painful, reliving, projecting, or being a wise soul. So then I started to look at my natal chart and my gene keys and my human design. And I'm like, well, if I have this gift, whatever it was, if I have this intuition, if I'm able to tap into this planet, how did this painful experience foster me accessing that? So then the painful experience became something that I could have gratitude for, that I could see had the larger theme purpose of life itself as a fragment of source coming to experience itself in my own unique design. I was able to have gratitude for the souls of the people who hurt me and who gave me my subconscious patterns because of my unconscious repressed mental and mindsets and emotions. I was able to appreciate myself and balance out the feelings of not being good enough or being too much, because I could look at my chart and be like, all these qualities are awesome and very useful. So I was able to change some of the perceptions that I had about myself because of my big T, little t, and childhood wounds. So it gave me so much perspective. And the more I used the chakras as an energy source, the more I was able to change my thoughts and feelings, and the more my habits to get my body into this aesthetic became easier and easier and easier to do. When I learned, I mean, this is, I got to, you'll know, like, I'll keep referencing a lot of pre-biblical texts, and it's important to me to mention that because there are words and paragraphs and entire books that were omitted from our standard Bible for power, because there are things that were in the Bible that taught us how to work with energy. And it's kind of like an autonomous person you can't control. So there's some control aspects that go into our religions. And I'm like laughing because I'm like, okay, like I know I'm probably going to offend some people, but I grew up Christian and Jewish. And if we're having a religion to have a connection to God, but there's aspects of the religion that were omitted from our awareness to keep us in a condition that we had to go to a person instead of God, and instead of trusting ourselves and trusting that divinity within, a little upsetting to me. And so when I reference this, I want you to know, like, if you have questions, if you have what's called the religion wound, you can go explore this stuff. It's outside our modern Bibles, even our King James Bibles. So back to my point. My point is I got my hands on some scriptures that were pre-biblical and referencing, talking about that Jesus was teaching people about the rainbow bridge. And the rainbow bridge is the chakra system. And we have our first three chakras at the root, the belly button, and right below our xiphoid process, that little knob where our ribs connect. Those first three chakras are really helping us navigate the 3D, where we are physically. Then we have the heart chakra that is essentially a bridge into the higher dimensions held in the throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and the crown chakra. And when you can cross this rainbow bridge within, you have crossed over the line that separates physical and non-physical. And a lot of these teachings and the words are very abstract. The words back in the day when these scriptures were written have lost their meaning. The words mean different things by now. Our dictionary, our current dictionary, is changing. There are words being changed right under our nose. And when I read this stuff and I learned this stuff, of course, like I've told you, my emotions are anger and sadness. I was pissed that it was omitted from our awareness, but then I started to work with it and be like, okay, like how can I not be angry about this and just like relearn it as my human right? So when I had that awareness that these chakras were a way for us to traverse and combine the physical and non-physical, I was like, okay, well then what's in the chakras? And I researched what each chakra represented. I have different books. I did different Google searches. I mean, like I was all over it. And at the time that I was going through what I call my first round of the chakras, it was totally unconscious. And what I did is I would go into meditation and I would do my brain and heart coherence breathing. I would get myself into a heightened emotional state, and I would either focus on the emotion/energy that was held in a chakra. So if the root chakra is about anchoring yourself in love or in fear, I'm like, show me my fear. And I would just imagine this fear make a whole like 3D globe around me, and I would just see images play out. Some of the images were from movies, some of them were things I've never seen before, some of them were repressed memories. And I just went with it to allow myself to see what was stored in that chakra of fear in the root chakra. Then there was other times where I was like, throat chakra, show me what you got. And I would just like wait for the throat chakra to start to show me things. And so sometimes I would be strategic with an emotion. Sometimes I would just say, show me what's in here. And when I would see these things, then I would visualize, you know, similar to my background here, of all these gorgeous lights and holographic sparkles and everything coming together and diffusing and softening, and you know, like the red of the root chakra like changing to a brighter, more translucent with glitter and holographic you know, light to it. So I would do this like energy work as a practice. I would change how it was visually. I would imagine what I thought neutralizing energy would look like. I did my research and would ask the chakra to reveal a specific emotion that it carried, or I would just say, show me what you got. And whatever came up, came up. So I'd do that. And I just like let it go, like wherever, like whatever was happening. I left my heart chakra open, not my heart chakra. I left my crown chakra open. So I would like be at the office and all of a sudden like something would drop in. I'd be like, oh, I have to write this down, or I have to draw this, or I have to do something. So it was very heightened state. It was very stressful, even though it was like heightened stuff. It was still very stressful on my body. The second time that I went through the chakras, I did it with my friend Joya. And she and I kind of run parallel each other with our spiritual experiences. And at that time, we had circled back to each other and we were talking about our experience with the chakras. And we said, okay, well, let's take 6 months. We decided we were going to keep our crown chakras open, which is not suggestible because it's a lot of information. But we said, we're just going to keep our crown chakra open the whole time. And every single month, we are going to integrate each chakra. So we're going to go root, sacral, heart, throat, third eye. We traveled together, and the experiences that we had together in person and on a weekly basis with our voice memos to each other, and when we would actually sit down and record our experiences, our life played out the energy of those chakras. And as we got deeper into it with the heart chakra, I got the awareness that part of my protection mechanism from my early childhood wounding was to constantly go to people for the validation. So when I got to the heart chakra, I'd like want to reach out to her and text her and do whatever and like communicate something or get her advice or whatever. And then I would feel this like reeling back in of, you have to trust yourself. You got to start trusting yourself. And so we really branched off and really didn't complete the project. And I think probably that's like may have been what was supposed to happen, that we made it to the heart and we were able to tap into our higher intelligence systems. And the chakras to me are like separate little brains that we can tap into. And it's like the lower they are, it's not like that they're the most negative or unintelligent, but they're serving a different purpose in the realms of the universe. And the realms of the universe have varying degrees of frequency and intelligence and speed and purpose. So it's like the root chakra is almost like base minerals, dirt, the building blocks on a chemical level. Whereas like the crown chakra is like, beam me up. What star system do you want to tap into? What higher chakra intelligence of a higher mind do you want to funnel down into this human brain? So maybe for us in that experiment, once we got to the heart, we were able to tap into our higher selves more. And so the experiment of staying connected with it didn't really pan out. So those were the two times. Like the one time, totally, I call it that I was unconscious. I just let it rip and then was intentional. And I did it again on my own terms. And I focused on work to be like, you know, how am I showing up online? What am I integrating from the business mentors that I'm taking classes with? How do I anchor this in the root? How do I get creative with the sacral? How do I own who I am with my solar plexus? How do I stay connected in my heart? How do I communicate exactly what I mean with my throat chakra? How can I see through one eye of the third eye and not perceive good or bad, right or wrong, just is? How can I stay connected to my higher selves by way of my crown chakra? How can I stay in awareness that I made it through the bridge and I crowned myself a holy child? Like, how can I manage all those things in regards to my career? So I think that was the third time that I did it. And I think I stopped doing it after that to get together more of the other frameworks that I was tapping into. So what I want to share with you is this is some of the stuff I'm going to share with you from this sheet. They're all going to go into separate episodes. And I did do research, right? But I also tapped into my own intuition. So what I'm going to say here might seem similar, and then it might seem not similar to where you're going to be like, well, that's wrong. That's not how it works. Well, maybe that's not how it works for you. And I think this is part of what's so great about the Age of Aquarius is that the Age of Aquarius is signified as our direct connection to God. So if we're a fragment of source energy and we get ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually all lined up, we are a direct funnel to source energy. And if source energy was the Big Bang and exploding out into fragments, of course, my perception in my fragment is going to be different from yours. So I just encourage you to take in energetic information, like run a check through your heart, see if it really resonates with you. And if it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad. It could be like somewhere where like you're going to use that to sharpen your edge. So really take in everything with an open mind. Okay. So the first one with the root chakra is that it's programmed in 0 to 3. And the root chakra is directly related to your unconscious mind. Your sacral chakra is directly related to your subconscious mind. And your solar plexus is directly related to your conscious mind. So with the root, I have it as, this is my intuition from a healing event that I had, come back here. Appreciate the discomfort provided as a sign when you've lost your way. This is home. And this is the healed perspective of these chakras, because these particular things that I'm reading to you largely came together after I had my heart broken. I was really, really devastated because I thought I saw green flags instead of red flags. In hindsight, it was like all red flags. And when I sat with my emotions, I cried so hard from my guts, and I traversed the universe into an incident with my stepmom in the kitchen. And it was in a house that they lived in before I was, I mean, I had to have been at most 8 or 9 years old, at most 11, at most 11. And the feeling that I had watching myself as this, at least or up to 11-year-old in the kitchen with my stepmom, watching that event, it wasn't even anything bad. I just was there and just felt the sadness of how I felt. Like I felt sad. So I felt sad with a broken heart in real time. And I went back to a moment somewhere up until 11 years old that I felt really sad with my stepmom. And it was a sadness because it was a judgment I was having of myself. And I really don't have like a memory to go with it of like what was said or what was done. I just know we were cooking in the kitchen and I felt the overwhelming sense of sadness. And when I was feeling this sadness for my little self and my big self, I was just like, I can handle this. And I went into meditation, and then all of a sudden, like these codes, just like I intuited these codes, like they just dropped in to really put to my exact words of how the chakras work for me outside of somebody else's language, which I was really trying to do to get my own language to describe the chakras instead of, I heard from this book, this is what it means. No, like, what does it mean for me? So in this moment of having this sadness healing event, I felt like the root chakra, instead of it being this place of fear, that it was really like knocking on the door of like, this is where we are. It was like your little self. It was like your most unconscious 0 to 3 baby self, almost straight from source. You've only been a human for 3 years. And that energetic system is like, you're supposed to be over here. And all the pain that we have in our life is because we've moved from that center. And we find that center with our natal chart, our human design, and our gene keys. Then we have the sacral chakra. And I wrote, this is how I feel. And the root, the sacral chakra is programmed in ages 3 to 7. And what I wrote was, life reflects the emotional body's magnetic pull to create your life in your self-image, who you quote unquote think you are based off the 0 to 3 grounding period. So if we have a 0 to 3 grounding period where we're learning how to connect to other people and we're learning, are we cared for, are we not? You can look up what happens with the Romanian orphanages. I think the videos like were all out in the 80s. If a baby's not getting physical touch, neurologically things change. So whatever was happening in your 0 to 3, whatever environment you were in, whatever stress the adults were under, whatever cleanliness or not cleanliness, like if your environment was safe, if it was scary, if there was loud noises, if there was gunshots, if there was broken glass, like whatever, if you were in a car accident in your car seat, like the grounding period of 0 to 3 is telling you a whole lot about the earth environment and the people environment, and you're fitting into it. So the sacral chakra, this is how I feel. To me, it's kind of like the emotional body got set in that 0 to 3, the emotional, sensing, feeling body got set in that 0 to 3. And the sacral chakra, being a feminine energetic of production, of gestation, of a womb and being birthed, that then goes onto autopilot and starts duplicating your reality based on how that emotional body learned to feel. And we're feeling, we got to remember that feel is the sensation that we get from the emotions. And the emotions are energy in the field. And emotions are also how your high self / soul communicates to you. So it's like your high self soul is like this holographic image of you. And it is making your body vibrate at an emotional rate to get you to feel something in this physical vessel, for then to activate your brain, for your brain to be like, well, what is this? Who am I? I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm a piece of shit if I'm sad. I'm a piece of shit if I disappointed somebody. So it's who we think we are is how our life is being created by the sacral chakra. Then the solar plexus, this is how I think. And this is programmed in ages 7 to 13, where we go manipulative and reactive, or we go creative and responsive. And this is just very simply, are we in the driver's seat of our conscious mind or not? Are we checked out and we're on autopilot and we're on all of our protection mechanisms from our big T, our little t, and our childhood wounds? Or are we brain and heart connected? Are we emotionally regulated? Are we responding to our environment? Are we being creative and collaborative, or are we being manipulative so that we can make sure we're getting our needs met? Then this is how I connect. This is your heart chakra. This gets programmed in ages 13 to 18. And what I wrote is healing the cord perception of event in love and wisdom to generate a loving, energetic exchange where it's still connected, but in love, sending balanced frequencies of mind and being an energetic match to receiving the same. Okay. The cord. This is how I see energetic cords. Visualize my hands here as 2 balls of wool. But the 2 balls of wool are actually people. And it's the mental, emotional bodies. The energetic bodies are the balls of wool. The thought of the right hand, masculine energy, sends an energetic thought to this other hand. But it's the feminine, it's the outlet in the wall that takes in the information from the plug for the lamp, right? Masculine, feminine energetics. Stick, hole. Information goes in. So the thought from my right hand goes into the feminine, energetic, emotional body of my left hand. My left hand is now thinking, what does this information mean based on how I feel? So now the left hand has a mental, emotional, identity, operating system, behavior, a whole package of beingness based on what information just came from the right hand's mind. But because we're in a reflective universe, the left hand is then going to have a thought go to the right hand, and that right hand is now going to have a perception. And these balls of wool with thoughts and feelings going back and forth eventually come out into a thread, a cord. And I got this concept when I was like, why do we go to a healer who can see cords? I cannot see cords. How can we go to a healer that can see energetic cords and say they're going to cut the cord, or they can say, oh, we can see the entities, we can see the cords, I got rid of all of it on you. How then is it possible, if the cords are cut, to re-experience that emotional state or that type of person or that very person that you thought the cord was cut from? How? So then I was like, well, if energy is thoughts and feelings, if I am still thinking and feeling in those ways, I am regenerating the cord. I'm regrowing the cord. And to the level of awareness that I'm sharing with you right now, the cord never went away. It was just defined in negative thoughts and feelings. It was defined in pain. So when I started to see the cord like this, especially after this most recent broken heart that I had that like finally nailed all the stuff down for me, I was like, what if I wrote a love letter to all of the guys who like I really remember breaking my heart? Not like every guy I dated, but like the ones that really hurt. What if I took a step back and looked at the emotional state that they gave me? What feelings did I have with them that then I didn't have when the relationship didn't work out? Because that was the gift. They gave me the experience of self-image in those heightened emotional states. But the thing that I didn't like was how it ended or how the relationship got imbalanced because of my own insecure attachment style. So I'm like, okay, if I write a love letter and I infuse this cord with not only the emotions that they gave me, but also thank you, then the connection that I have with them that's probably always going to be there is now not going to be something that's going to keep manifesting in dis-ease or displeasurable events in my life. So when I started to look at that of like, this is how I connect, this is the heart chakra, this is how I connect, like we're all connected. Like, where did we get this idea that we could cut a cord and that was it? Like, just the concept of saying we're going to cut a cord goes against a belief system that we talk out of the other mouth of saying that we're all connected. Like, it just made like so much sense. And when I did this practice, I felt so much relief. I felt so much gratitude. I felt like, okay, like I can connect. I can connect, right? Like I don't need to have all this protection up. Like I can learn how to connect in a healthy way. So that was the heart chakra, ages 13 to 18. And then this is how I communicate. And this throat chakra gets programmed in ages 18 to 24. And I wrote, using words and vibration to manifest your reality in love based on the healed perception of all energetic cords. So if we're looking at the heart chakra as like the place that then now we traverse the higher dimensions, the fifth dimension in the throat chakra is actually that we are looking down at the fourth dimension of mind, where all the illusion takes place, where all of perception takes place, that changes neutral events to positive or negative, looks down at the third dimension where we physically are, looks down at the second dimension where we're more primal, instinctual, and have the addictions, looks down on the root chakra where it's our base of the fundamentals. So the fifth chakra, you're able to actually look at the events in your life from the fifth dimension of this is what happened. This is what I created out of it. This is how I grew. This is how I extracted the wisdom. Okay, that cycle of creation of life experience is complete. I've gone around it enough times to know my shit, to know the bullshit, to know what to look for. I'm good. Now I'm holding this higher perspective, and you can really just look at it as a pyramid, that the fifth dimension, the chakra, is the top of the pyramid, and the four sides are the learning experience, the growing experience, the cause, the wisdom. And then when you get to look down on it with that higher perspective, you're like, oh shit, that life experience was pretty cool. It was painful as fuck, but you know what? My God, it translated perfectly into this aspect of my chart. It's made me strong in this area. It's given me a gift in this area. I'm good. So this throat chakra, then you really get to utilize it. Like this one looks like a gear that just keeps pumping out information. Like when you look at the old like flour mill that's on a river, how the water scoops up the thing on the wheel and then makes all the insides grind up the wheat inside, right? Like really old fashioned thing. I feel like that's what it's doing. And if you let this gear circle down into your energy, AKA the water, and it's negative, and you spill out negative shit in your words, or if you're holding Like, I feel like the words and the tone of which you use words, the meaning that you give the words, like you could say fuck, and it's just to exaggerate a meaning. Or you could say fuck out of anger. You know what I mean? Like it's the word, but it's also the energy that you give it. And that's coming from like how you're speaking it or what you're speaking. And when I saw this as this stone mill, I guess, or flour mill, whatever, I was like, wow, I got to really be conscious of what I'm saying, what I'm listening to, because on the energetic part with the feminine energetics, this is the word of God. You are speaking the word of God into existence. So what do you want to speak into existence? It's really important. Okay. Then we have the third eye chakra. This is how I see. And this is programmed in ages 24 to 28. And I wrote this new perception of the people who broke your heart as their soul helping your soul grow. There are no perpetrators here. If you chose growth, you take full responsibility for your role, if only by human development or you doing the very same things you were afraid of having done to you. Okay. So this is a new perception. The third eye is, I know some people have talked about it, how like this is how you transmit information. I don't really feel like it's how I transmit information. I feel like the third eye is about seeing duality at once, that you can have the human experience. You could be sad, you could be angry, but you can also see the flip side of it. And you can still hold a certain level of emotional grounding and strength and like a strong mindset to be like, this area of life that I'm pissed off about, if I'm pissed off about the IRS and taxes, okay. On the one hand, the more money I pay generally should mean that's means because I'm making more money. But then on the other hand, it could be that they're robbing us. Both are true. So to me, the third eye chakra is that you're able to still have the experience, but you're still able to hold both ends of the spectrum of good and bad, positive and negative of that thing that you are perceiving, whether it's a thought or whether it's a thing, like whatever it is. And when I looked at my ex-husband and the person I had a relationship a year after that, I saw their souls in the most loving way of what they delivered to me on an energetic level that match my chart. Like they gave to me experiences that helped me grow. They were totally different experiences. They were not great, experiences on many levels that helped move on from those relationships and helps me to understand like whatever interaction, negative interaction I'm having with somebody on a soul level, if I choose growth, a growth mindset, a love mindset over a victim mindset, I can use that experience to grow. I can send energy to them. I can send energy to their soul, and I can feel gratitude and appreciation for their soul. And when I say there's no perpetrators here, there's part of me that's feeling like the third dimension is the dimension of cause and effect, even though that goes for everything, all dimensions. But what I'm saying is like, if there was just an entity, if there was a single, if somehow there was a fragment of source energy that in that fragmentation believed it to be separate, what do we do when we're in threat? We will do anything to survive. You'll eat cat food to survive. So we do bad shit to other people and to our bodies and to our finances and to our environment when we feel the need to survive. So if there's no perpetrators because the perpetration started as a response to feeling separate and it just kept duplicating itself over and over and over again until we got to 2024, where it's crazy. What if there was no perpetrators? Like I was listening to a podcast today about inner child healing where the woman was saying, if you've gotten stuff with your mom, think about what it was like for your mom to be raised by your grandma. Give yourself some perspective to give her compassion. So it's like, whoever hurt you, why did they hurt you to begin with? Like, what threat were they trying to mitigate? And so that helped really kind of bring me into there's no perpetrators here. And if you choose growth, you take full responsibility for your role. Because if you, and we're going to get into these episodes in depth, but this is a good overview one, because you can pick out which one you really want to focus on. If you take into account that like your emotions from whatever happened to you, big T, little t, and childhood wounds, were not your fault, but because they are still stored in you and they are still affecting your health and your life and your relationships, they are your responsibility because they are coming from your body. So if you understand that and you understand human development, that we have critical ages in our development as a species, then taking the growth mindset means that you take into account those things. That part of this, number one, is just the stages of human development and a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of feeling separate, of having the threat response, of feeling the need to protect oneself. And that you at some point have done to other people the very thing that you're afraid of having happen to you. And we see this a lot with avoidant attachment style. And I have the chaotic mixed attachment style. We see, so with the avoidant, it's you get out before they get out. You push them away, you cause the problems, blah, 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 whatever, right? So when we say this is how I see, this is creating a new perception for your life experience so that you can stay grounded while you do the emotional work. The crown chakra, the last one, ages 28 to 33. This is who I am. You can believe yourself and believe in yourself, trusting you are enough and are the peace you've been seeking this whole time. Because at any time you had choices to let go of your pain by feeling it instead of whatever else you did to numb it. Believe yourself and believe in yourself. Big T, little t, and childhood wounds separate the belief in ourself. We don't stop loving the person who hurt us. We stop loving ourself. When we learn not to love ourselves at a young age, we go into the mind and start the overthinking process that leads to anxiety as an adult. Because the alarm systems in the body never stop. We just retreat to our mind, overthink, try to figure out what we did wrong, what we could have done better to not let the bad thing happen. And the act of not loving yourself is discoherency. It's incoherency. You are splitting the mind body. So we can believe in ourselves, right? That's repairing those wounds. Believe ourself. So believe in ourself is the second part. So we believe ourselves by loving ourselves. We believe that we're valid. We believe we're enough. We believe we're not too much. Those are all the mindsets that happen when we separate from ourselves based on our wounding. When we believe in ourselves, we get to believe beyond this physical body. And we get to be like, especially using these charts for reference of like, I'm equipped. I'm equipped in my human design of who I am as a fragment of source, and I'm equipped from my lab day of life. And we understand and we build the inner peace by reminding ourselves that we could have chosen this at any time. Anytime we felt that alarm go off and we didn't do anything to numb it, to get away from it, we could have chose to feel it in that moment and start the healing process. But anytime we chose not to feel and suppress was us keeping the peace and the incoherency. But like, you know, don't be hard on yourself because you probably didn't know that that's what was going on. You probably just thought there was something wrong with you. You're trying to figure out what you were doing wrong, where you were dropping the ball at work, where you weren't meeting somebody else's needs, how you were disappointing somebody, how you couldn't get a grip on your eating, how like no matter what you do at the gym, you're never getting results. You probably were thinking those were all the reasons for your anxiety. And so it made sense to reach for an outside source, whether it was food or a supplement or like whatever. Like it makes sense living in the brain to go do something versus dropping into the body and being like, I feel like shit. Like my heart, my throat, and my solar plexus, dunzo when my anxiety kicks up. Come back to the body, do the breathing, get present. You can assess and be like, did I just interact with something that turned on an alarm bell of something I can refine my healing process with? Or what? Like, what was it? And you only get that by breathing and by being present with yourself. So this crown chakra, it's like literally a crown. Like, we got this. I mentioned ages that these get programmed, but I didn't tell you about that before I started talking about it. So if you're wondering, there's certain spiritual timelines in our 0 to 33 years old where it is said that in that space between 28 and 33, if we on the human level are not on the soul track, the high self, the soul, will come in and do something pretty disruptive to get you to wake up, give you, this is going to sound terrible, an exit strategy. You know what I mean? Give you a crisis to wake up. And then there's other references that it's the age of 33 because we have 33 vertebra. We're going through the spine as a symbol of our experience. When you put this all together, it's a lot to put together. So the chakras are acting like brains. They're acting like spheres. They're acting like little USB drives of intelligence. They're holding energy. They are projecting energy. They are interdimensional. They are connected to all of yourselves. The information that's stored in them is also parallel with life events. And all of this together, to me, gives context and gives a bit of a framework. Because one of the things that really upset me, and like I've said before in another podcast, was that when I went to therapy, one of the therapists said I had all the answers within. And I got to reach out to him and thank him but at the time I was so angry because I was still in my big T trauma. Like I was at the therapist talking about how stressful my life was, how my anxiety was making me feel physically. And when I eventually said, oh, my mom had a stalker when I was 9. He stole my cat and tortured it. Does that play a role? And she was like, yes, it plays a role. That's PTSD. And I'm like, but I didn't go to war. She's like, it's still PTSD. You clearly haven't processed this. And the life, the build up to breaking up with my dad at 11 years old, the stalker at 9 years old, these times, that's my solar plexus times, basically. Manipulative and reactive, creative and responsive. This is how I think, like all in my head. So my point is that I realize that part of what I'm showing you is part of my overthinking process to finally feel good, which really just amounts to getting into our body and breathing. But if you are stubborn like me and you don't listen to people say, just get in your body and breathe, these are the frameworks that were really helpful for me. And it almost like now, like it's so exciting because I'm like, dude, we have life experiences at different little chunks of time. We have these energy centers that transmit energy through the dimensions. we have a hero's journey to think about an exciting concept to give our pain purpose. And we have our natal chart, our gene keys, and our human design to help us navigate this course. How fucking cool is this? This is so cool. So I share that with you because you're probably here, if you're here for the healing experience and to change your mindset and change your body, overthinking is part of our path. But you know what? If my overthinking got me to this, then I'm okay with it because this is some incredible stuff and it all makes sense with so many different spiritual concepts. And so my goal is that whenever you listen to these episodes and like something rings true for you or something sounds similar to something that you've heard before that made sense, that gave you peace, you're like, that's my lane. That's how I understand energy. I want to go explore that more for my inner work tools because that made sense. Whereas maybe another episode's not going to make sense and you're going to be like, goodbye. But that will be great because then you'll go on your way for your spiritual journey wherever it leads you. Okay, that's all I have to say about the hero's journey. Thank you so much for being here. And here's to being happy, healthy, and hot. Oops, I forgot to mention we have our first community call this Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's January 27th, 2024. You can enter to win my Dragon Water Bottle or my Darkness and Light mug by sharing a screenshot of you listening to an episode and tagging Body Energetics. You'll be entered into our monthly draw. Go to bodyenergetics.com to sign up for the podcast list where you'll get podcast episodes delivered to your inbox, the Zoom details for our call, and a link to our Facebook community. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you found it helpful, please head over and give us a 5-star rating and leave a review for how this was helpful for you. This is going to help me spread the word faster into more people who need this information to self-heal. Join us at facebook.com/group/bodyenergetics where we have discussions about the episodes. Go to bodyenergetics.com so that you can sign up for my newsletter to make sure that you never miss an episode. And that's the place that you're going to get invited to our Zoom discussion that we have every single month. Tag us on social media, Body Energetics, and we will reshare your tag and enter you into our monthly drawing to win our really cute water bottle or our really cool mug.